Okay, we're back again. Excuse me, at the 446th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, August 18th, 2022. And this is the second half of our show. And Mr. Kesh usually takes questions during this time or has something else he'd like to say first. How would you like to begin, Mr. Kesh?
We'll have some questions to answer if there is, and then we come back to everything else.
Okay, well, there's a number of interesting questions here in the Q&A, and we have a hand up with Dimitri as well. So let's start actually with one of the questions from the Brazilian community in the Q&A. Question from Alexandra. Says, good morning, Mr. Kesh. Last Monday during the discussions about the technology that we do every Monday in our Brazilian group, we listened to the recording of the plasma reactor group where you made the transmutation test with the knowledge seekers at Rick's teaching. Many of us in our group had different and interesting experiences while listening to the recording of this teaching with our headphones. My experience was of being in a place that I called deep space. This place was all dark with billions of points of light. So I would like to know what this place is, or is it irrelevant to think about it? And what would these points of light be?
I haven't been there, I don't know. It's what we see and what you understand from the time and position. And then you explain to us. This is what I said, if you remember at the beginning of the trials, before we started this, that we accept, or we have to accept what is said or what people see. Some people would exaggerate, some people would make some things up, but in fact, if you've been to LINS and you've been through the process and then you come out, and we always ask questions, sometimes very deep questions, sometimes some of the knowledge seekers go through such an emotional condition that they don't even want to talk. We've had 2 or 3 cases which the knowledge seekers just want to leave, and they say, we come back and give you our report. Because their emotion is so touched what they've seen, and they want to understand. They want to mature to what you went through in the system, how they came in touch with their own soul, the experiences they did. So what do you see? You have to explain to us because we were not there.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go to Dimitri now and see what he has to say.
Thank you, Rick. Mr. Kesh, I have a couple of questions. My first question is related to the unicos. Now we have, oh, I'm so sorry. We have a sun in our solar system, which the planets rotate around, the moons rotate around the planets. We have a sun in our galaxy, and our solar systems rotate around that. And we have a sun in a center of our universe, and all our galaxies go around that. The universe is part of a cluster of universes in the unicos. I believe, off the top of my head, you just said it was between 6 and 9 universes that make a cluster. That cluster is one of many clusters of universes. Do these clusters rotate around a unicos sun? Is my first question. Thank you.
As many planets and moons and whatever rotate around the sun, if you understood the totality. So the unicos rotates around one sun, which is the creator, the soul of the creator, where all the energy comes from. When you look at the drawing of the unicos, especially in the back of the third book, the center point is the creator. And the rest are on their own clusters of their own clusters of their own cluster. If you compare it to the soul of the man, your brain has its own soul, your kidney has its own soul, your heart has its own soul, and then within it, there are other sections, compartments of the fields of the strength to clean up the zinc, let's say, in your kidney, another part to clean up any vitamin B's, another one. These become little galaxies. And then within the galaxies, then you have different tissues and the cells, and then become these like planetary system and whatever. But in fact, the essence of life of this cell in the kidney, which does certain job, is connected to the soul, which has been as a center. And that's the same. The whole universe evolves and fed by the soul of the creator within the center. All these universes are those clusters of kidneys and whatever, different galaxies.
Thank you so much. It really does give more comprehension to I make man in the image of myself. That's beautiful. I'm very grateful. My second question is related to the technology that you are releasing, these flight systems, the transmutation systems, more towards the flight system. How does the flight system that the Keshe Foundation has built, how does it differ from using the flight system of the soul of the man? What are the differences there, please?
What do you mean by that? Explain.
Well, with reduction of the soul of physicality and the correct conduct, activating your carbon-14, and with, depending on the person, I guess, certain practices, people are able to fly around this universe, possibly other universes. Humans are able to do this just using their soul, the soul of the man, because of the reduction of the soul of physicality and their conduct. They can fly around space. How does, for instance, is there any difference in that flight between a human using their soul of the man and the flight system that that's been built and is being tested in Linz?
The system built in Linz gives you the opportunity to show the beauty of your soul to yourself and nobody else, and to teach you how to reach it. It's a tool for you to get to know how to operate where your soul is. We don't do anything else. The flight, we call it a flight system, but if in fact, in reality, is an expansion system of the soul. In a way, it's a key to unlock the soul of the man from the prison of the physicality of the man. When we go back to a lot of teachings, when we talk about from the beginning that the soul of the man, what we call the spirit, or you call the soul of physicality, has imprisoned the soul of the man And if you learn the other parts of the teaching, where, like a tokamak in a plasma condition, you cannot hold the plasma unless you have another plasma which can contain. So your spirit has created a net around your soul. By field energy, nothing else.
Could you just explain what you refer to as spirit?
Soul of physicality.
Thank you.
In a cultural, religious, you call it the spirit. Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is your soul of physicality. In the work of the enhancement unit, when we put you in it, we, in a way, dilute this. That allows the soul of the man to expand beyond. But still, this has a limitation to what he expands to and where he gets in contact. If you have a balloon and then you force this balloon, you fill it with air, and then you force it, you put pressure on it. What does it do? You see a little bubbles sticking out, because now the field pressure creates this. In the world of plasma technology, we don't put the pressure on it. We dilute the strength of the field of the spirit, the soul of physicality, and then the soul decides to go, brother, mother, another position in the galaxy. There's no difference. We don't let this to blow up and the balloon to explode. We allow, we reduce that this becomes the new shape. Now the spirit or the soul of physicality is diluted inside. It'll be very interesting in a coming time when man matures in more detail in the knowledge, you will see your physicality totally different. Now we look at the physicality of the man in a physical dimension this way. But when we become mature and we look at our spirit or the soul of physicality, we will not see this shape. No way. We will see a field transition. You know, the best way I can explain it, and I usually explain teaching with children, is you go on a rope. Yeah? You go on a rope, and this is your body. And you're trying to balance on this rope. You move an arm up, you move an arm down, you put a leg up, you put a leg down, and you find your balance to stay on the rope. But your shape doesn't change. It's very much the same as we'll see in the soul of physicality in the dimension of energy. We see everything in a compact. In physicality, you move a hand and a leg to balance yourself. In the world of plasma, you create balance with your other systems in the environment. One day, when you understand this becomes very clear. You understand what the job of the enhancement units are. As I always said, we give you a Rolls Royce. It's beautiful. It's full of everything which a man is dreaming. Status of perfection when you're rich. In the knowledge of the man, we give you the knowledge of creed. It's that Rolls Royce. Now you know you have a soul in it. But the only difference is that Rolls Royce is on the street. doesn't belong to you unless we give you the key. It's the same with your soul. The Rolls Royce, the beauty of your soul is there. Now with the enhancement unit, we give you the key. The richness, the luxury of understanding, the knowledge of the creation. That's the only difference. We are, in a way, the key to the knowledge of the universe. Here you have a key to get into physical matter to say you have reached a state of up. With the enhancement unit, we give the key to be able to enter to the knowledge of the universe. That's all the difference. It's not a magic box. It's understanding the work of the universe, understanding what it is and how we create that creation. I don't decide where you go. I don't decide how part of physicality manifests itself in that dimension. I've asked many people who've been through the system, and I said, did you have a drink with your father or your brother or whatever who died years ago? Yes. Could you bring it back? No, because you're in the dimension of the energies. If you go in the dimension of physicality and you went to New York and saw your brother and he shared a glass of wine with you, you can still the glass in your hand because you're in the dimension of life. But in the dimension of when your grandfather died and you met, in the dimension of soul, there's no physicality because he has exchanged the maturity of the soul of physicality. The spirit is gone. There's a difference when we travel you with the system. The spirit and the soul are together. When you die, you leave the spirit of the totality behind. That's why you cannot come back to create it. Because what I call the composition of the physicality to become another part of other creatures does not allow it to come back. Because if you're going to bring all the pieces of the spirit of the man into creation, to come back to the future, as you call it, you'll be a piece of worm, and then God knows the lizard and the fly and everything else. The spirit of whatever they ate and whatever children there was created from them during the time of your death on this day. So it's impossible. But in the dimension of the soul, you don't have the spirit with you. You have the soul, the energy of the soul. And that's why I said, if man knew what happens to him after that, he has no dimension of physicality. And when the soul takes position in another dimension in the universe, then in that position, if he decides, if the conditions create an interaction with the fields of the inertia of the environment, then he will create his own physicality through the inertia, what we call the new spirit will be created. Because he has to slow down, and let it slow down. It changes the same with the soul of the creator. When it comes down, it reduces, becomes a man. But in essence, the fields of his creation. Are there any other questions? Before we go to another question, there is something important, absolutely beautiful, what is going to be announced by the Keshe Foundation. In the past few days, in past few weeks and years, we have promoted the generator by the Keshe Foundation. In the past few weeks, we have brought you the gas production unit and what we call the power unit, plasma power, where the 2 kilowatts we have put for 10K and the 10 kilowatts we have put for 60K. Keshe Foundation, in this we produce electric power. In this we produce gases. We have, and we will introduce in the next short time, maybe by next week, a new 10,000, what we call 10 kilowatt energy unit. at a cost of 10,000 euro. Where the beauty is, this power unit will supply you the energy to 10 kilowatt. And as part of it, a gas production, where what we will do is at your system, you have your generator for your electricity, and you have a gas production for your heating and cooking and whatever you, a hybrid, a combined breed. Never been done before. So what we do, we feed the gas production out for you. You want to burn, you want to cook, and we feed the same gas to what we call a gas generator. A 10 kilowatt gas generator now is on the card for 10,000 euros. You've got to understand, you go and buy a gas generator, it's 600, 800, 2,000, whatever, but you have to keep on buying fuel for it. This technology, this way, you don't need, is forever lasting. There will be some elements you need to continuously to add, which is cost nothing, but in essence, what we call a combined unit of electricity and gas as the energy source is on offer from the Keshe Foundation for 10,000 euro. We'll market it, we just work on it next week or two, and then you will see one system. One side, you have what we call the pipe to add to your house, and one side the pipe will feed into a standard generator, gas generator. So a hybrid system allows, well, a combined system allows us now to see the full energy demand of a house. We try to limit this to maybe 1,000 or 2,000 to begin with, because it's a complicated system. We have to purchase the other part. We're not getting involved in the power generation side, but this is today's, if you buy the energy enhancement unit for the power, you only get electricity, and it's 2 kilowatt. We are not changing. Those of you who bought one, can I change it to one? We'll try to help you to do it. But from next couple of weeks, we allow this to come into operation. There is a discussion, there are about 72, maybe 73 people who trusted the Keshe Foundation 4 or 5 years ago, bought the Maghraf generators at around about 2,000 euros. There's a discussion in the Keshe Foundation. These units for your royalty to us will be given to you, but very, very little change of cost. As long as we cover our costs, you trust us, you stay with us. We try, even if it means try to give it to you as a cost of what you paid to the foundation for it, we'll try to do it. It's only 70 people left. Originally there were 100. We refunded all of you. And those who stayed with us with the what we call Maghraf generators, this unit is available, will be available to those. We have a list of, we know who you are, and you'll be offered. We leave it at your discretion to pay the balance or a little bit more, whatever, to cover our costs, but you'll have the combination of the gas and what we call the new system that allows us to come to the next generation of the work, because what it is very simple. Your gas is in plasmatic state. Your energy unit, electricity, even its light tube is in plasmatic situation. With another plasma condition system, which we'll market very soon, you'll have your food, you have your whatever you need for your processing of whatever. So the system as a whole will become a feeder, will create generation in water, and will get you what you need. So the new, what we call combination enhancement unit for energy and for gas will come to, don't forget, gases are the essence of the creation of the gases, which are the essence of the energy the body of the man works. With the electric power, we create the condition of the physicality energy. With the gases, we create the condition of the gases energy. So with the two, you will understand soon, we'll market the feed the health, what we call the processing, and everything else that you need in the house. You can make a donation for this to the Keshe Foundation, and internally we transfer it to sale when we market it, but it will be limited because it depends how much and how we can bring the gas generators. In a way, we don't need to burn the fuel, and it's a lifetime system. But all these systems has €100 per annum, what we call royalty fees to the foundation. So for the next 20 years, you pay €100 per year for all the gas, energy, and electric bills you have. And then hopefully with the other parts added to it, the water and the food will come to it, which is nothing. So if you were waiting for when the Keshe Foundation would reach that completion point, now we have brought the system in. We're working on it. Maybe we'll do next week or two. We will release it, and those of you who bought the gas unit or you bought the energy unit, you have to top it up to the figure it is, 10,000 plus the shipping. So even some of you who bought the what you call the system from Iran, which is built for what we call power enhancement, like the reducing the cost of the electricity. If you want to top it up to change it, we can do so. So you have a full generator and a gas supply together in one, what we call it, system. This makes it very easy for us to operate. And in a way, we have brought a new era in the world of science and technology, where you don't need to buy supply anymore. You create it yourself. You have the electric and you have the heating and the cooking and whatever you like to do with it. If you don't want to use the energy side, you can tank it as a gas and run a gas car, operate it, and have the energy in the house for your electricity. And 10 kilowatts is a very good, what do you call it, level of consumption. It can meet all the demands of the house, more or less. Unless you put 10 cookers on and 20 water bottles and what you call it, 10 heating elements, then you live in a castle. You need about 10 of them. For an ordinary man, 10 kilowatt and 10,000 is absolutely perfect, and it meets all the demands. And as I said, hopefully we'll have come to understanding with one of the world leading nations. The proposals has been done. It's just to be signed in the next few days. And then it will be announced by the government, hopefully through contractual agreements, that these energy units will be allocated to one of the most leading nations in the world. And then we'll see how the others follow. In a way, in the Western world, in Germany, we do not need to see the reduction. A factory can buy 2 or 3 of these and can run the factory for a combination of the higher generator, the gas generator, and take the supply. No company, no factory needs to be shut down because of the shortage of energy, as this will meet the whole demand of the economy of the world. As I said to one of our close allies and what we call companies we collaborate with, to what we call to transfer this technology very rapidly into Africa in the next few weeks. Keshe Foundation collaborates with many organizations around the world, and this allows us to, in fact, to bring the power supply of both, to bring the change, to bring that needed change. Africa power production has reached limitation. They cannot buy gases, and there were other things, especially with the rise in the price of the fuel. Now, every village, every town in Africa has the same opportunity and position as with the rest of the world, where the Keshe Foundation will back, as part of its profit as a corporation, to expand this. We have reached collaboration with some of the major corporations to be able to expand this very rapidly. On the back of this will come the what I call enhancement body units, which are totally revolutionized in the new system and structure. So for those of you who wanted to buy the generator, we can even allow you to go to the website of the Keshe Foundation, buy the 2 kilowatt and put in the text for the new integrated system, for the new, what you call, gas and energy, and we take it that way. If you want to purchase one, don't go to the one which is a 10 kilowatt for 60,000. Go to the one which says what we call 2 kilowatt power, but in the notes put for the new combination system, gas and energy, and then you get the full set. You don't need to change it. But in time, in the next couple of weeks, we will change that. But you have this, and then we take all. If you just want a generator, you buy a generator. If you want a gas unit, you still keep your gas unit. If you want the combination to meet all the demands of the house, is there. But this combination of the gas and what we call energy unit will come with the supplementary units very soon, where you can just add into the house and generate all the clean water you need. You can add in the house and get all the energies you need for feeding the household and everything else. Even your dog will not need to be fed. It's a beauty of it. It'll come very nice. You will see it very soon. It took us a long time to deliver, but this combined system which satisfies all the needs of the energy, of demand of any household. And as you understand, I think very soon in the Western world, in the next couple of years, these units becomes compulsory. When you build a house, you have to have this in it, which means the government does not need to connect to you, doesn't need to put the cable lines down, doesn't need to put what you call gas pipes in. It'll save billions for them, and it creates a new condition of independence. So in a way, you're welcome to the combined system of the energy, all you need, gas and electricity. In a good amount. In 10 kilowatt is a fair amount for any household to need. 2 kilowatt was about 3 kilowatt. As I said, we have 70-odd people who stayed with us, committed themselves and stayed with the Keshe Foundation. We'll find a solution to cover our costs a little bit here and there, or we find a way to, to be able to deliver those to you, and then you'll be contacted through the email by the Keshe Foundation next couple of 2 or 3 weeks, as you already been discussed in the foundation, how to support those who supported us, who stayed with us. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. There was a couple of comments about the microphone being people having a hard time with it. I find the audio is actually very good right now, but they're asking to move the microphone.
I think they got excited with the news.
A little bit away from your mouth, perhaps.
Yes,
and,
no problem.
There was a suggestion to try a different microphone. But
no, we're not going through that. We've been
not going through that again. No, thank you for the suggestion. But you wouldn't believe what we've already gone through to get to the point.
We even had Rick resigning from the noise. I gotta work with this. Get a new one.
At one point, it was just too much.
No, but, the iPhone headphones is perfect for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes it might get a little close, or sometimes your voice is just naturally more deeper, and it's just the way it is sometimes.
It's just the way you work sometimes. It goes too deep.
That's it. Okay, so what do we have here? Let me have a look. Okay, another question from excuse me, from Claudia of the Brazilian community. Good morning, Mr. Keshe. All this knowledge that you have been passing on for 8 to 10 years based on science and universal knowledge, and we are now reaching the level of transmutation. My question is, how was this same knowledge passed at the time of Jesus Christ, since the knowledge of the physical body, the planet, and the universe at that time was very small and different from what we have today? Thank you.
Christ didn't have an understanding of, but he had an insight of. It's a big difference. But you got to remember one thing. We talk, when we speak about Christ, we talk at the level of soul of physicality. The soul of the Christ is the same soul as Moses and Muhammad and the rest. A man in different outfits, but it's the same man. And the same man speaks to you today. Is not the position, it's understanding to be able to share in time, place, and space. And the teaching is not just for math, the teaching is for the totality of the creation. As I said, when you talk about the universal community, then it's not just the village of the man, it's the totality of the universe which learns from the man. So it's just how you understand it. It's the same soul. It's the same man in different clothes. But the soul of physicality is aware of the knowledge of the soul, but is not able to share because it's not there. People are not ready. Beings are not ready for it.
Okay, we have a hand up with Thomas, but first another question from Claudia of the Brazilian community. I am studying the health teaching on the uvula held in 2014. You said that the uvula is the twinity of the thalamus. With this knowledge, can we change the morphology of the uvula through the contact with the fields of the GANs of zinc and CO2, and thereby change our emotions in the brain?
Can you explain?
Let me just reread the last part of the question. I think, can we change the morphology or shape, I guess, and shape and use of the uvula through the contact with the fields of the GANs of zinc and CO2, and thereby change our emotions in the brain?
Every time you come in touch with any plasmatic field or collection of plasmatic field, it'll affect you. The best sign, the best way to understand, if you come in touch with a plasma of the zinc or a CO2, you might feel, because it's gases, some changes. But we all know when we come in touch with gases, it touches our emotion. The biggest one is when you come in touch with a collection of gases, we call it a man and a woman, we fall in love. We change. Because now is change of emotion. Because the field, the strength received and given is so much. So we don't interact. We might never seen never touched or come physically in touch with the person, but we fall in love with and we change our life with. The best example of this, the ex-president of Kazakhstan, Nazarbayev. In the 90s, usually the presidents of the Eastern Bloc or Communist Bloc, whatever, make sure always there is a news about them at the beginning. The first news is always about the presidents or the government. And they watch because they want to see what they say, how they propaganda works. I know this because I used to work with the family of Nazarbayev, personally. Nazarbayev sitting, now he's not the president, he moved a couple of years ago now. sitting, watching to the night news to see what the propaganda is, there is a news broadcaster for the first time on. And Nazarbayev fell in love with this woman on television, on the screen. And the woman never saw the outside world for a long time. She was just picked up from the television station, taken to the palace, and they have a child from each other. I think a couple of children up to now. And it just, the world leader fell in love with a woman on the screen, the touch of the field. And she changed his life. Nazarbayev changed with this love affair, but just receiving the fields. And we've seen this many times. Do we need the Ganses to change our emotion? Do we need Ganses to be there? The combination Gans of what we call the fields of life makes us to fall in love, makes us to understand, makes us to change feeling. So yes, it touches emotion because we look at the Gans of copper and zinc, but the biggest bunch, the biggest collection of Ganses is another being. Be it a dog, be it a cat, be it a man or a woman. That's all it is. Emotion through interaction of the field. Any other question?
Okay, let's go to Ed now. Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Cash. This is Ed in Indiana. I have a couple of questions, but the first is just what you recently talked about with the new unit. And you didn't talk much about the power enhancement unit, which several of us have purchased. It was my understanding that the power enhancement unit helped the power, of course, but that it also had many other effects, such as helping you at the soul level as well, and the environment of your house and stuff like that. Do these new
It's the
units?
extension of the same. It's the extension of the same system.
Okay, so it will accomplish the same things at the soul level as it does
Yes,
for your energy production.
yes, because to go back to what we said about the CO2 gas unit, that the CO2 gas unit is not a gas in the level of the what we use as CO2 for, let's say, drinking or for putting a fire up. It does that, but it carries a conversion energy of the gas, which means gives life, connects to giving life. It's very interesting. You can put two people in the same room with a fire and use a gas CO2-based structure. One will die and one will survive. The soul which survives still wants to be here. The soul which will find a physicality uses the energies of the CO2 with connection to the environment to elevate the soul to leave the physicality. Point of death, but elevated soul. You might find a husband and wife in a bed, in a fire. The wife lives because of the love of the grandchildren. The husband lets go because he had enough of the pains of this life with the cancer and the rest. It's the soul which decides. And the units which come out is the extension to that. If you buy the enhancement unit, that's what it does. It has, but if you go for the other one, all technologies will deliver is a combination of elevation of the soul and the food and the rest of it. You receive what you bought, but as the technologies evolves, we showed 3 weeks ago, we showed you the gas power, the production, we showed you the power generator the week before that. And now you see a combination. But the energy you produce is a plasmatic energy in the house. The gas you burn is a plasmatic. It's not just a matter state gas. And that's the beauty of it. You feel the change. It's like you put gases around the house in bottles or you fed a tree. Going back to our friend in Australia, which always, Antonio, which is always around with this thing. If you, as you said last time, if you put a CO2 unit or a gas unit in the center, and this is your fields, now it makes it much easier for you. Because if you have the energy units, like light bulbs, around the field, you create that condition. And the light shines all the way through to the roots, to the top of the harvest. These are extension to the present knowledge that we add. There is no need for fertilizers anymore. If you understand how to work this thing, how to produce the gases that is in combination with the lighting or the fields and itself. No harvesting. You don't have to worry about how many times you water it. As you go back into the documents about the growth of the harvest in the Mongolia, we did with the Chinese authorities. We were mature 2 or 3 weeks before their harvest, a week before their harvest. And in those times, the birds came and ate a lot of it. They were getting fed up. They've never seen so many birds eating. And even after the birds, all the complaint we had that the birds were eating, we still had, if I'm correct, 72 kilograms they produced, and we used 240 odd kilos. Can you imagine how much the bird have eaten in those 2 or 3 weeks when the harvest was already ready? While we were waiting for the fertilizer harvest to be ready. And this was only 27 or 56 days of experiment with the rice and 27 days with the wheat. We were 49 kilograms in the wheat. And in those 27 days, we added, I think if I remember, it was about 132 kilos. So is the essence of the elevation of the soul of the plants. It's not just a fertilizer. It's a different world. You convert this expansion of the fields in harvest into expansion of the soul of the man. Then you can see what it does. It creates mayhem within us. This is why many of you knowledge seekers have a problem with your families. Because you've been touched by the ganses, you've been touched by elevation of the soul. Physicality is there because you have to deal with it. But they say, oh, everything is wrong. They don't see 2 horns and 2 things and you don't eat. But your soul has been elevated and then you see the light. You see the understanding of knowledge. How many of the knowledge seekers have had or have problems with your family? Because if the technology is correct, why don't you do this? Why don't you? But technology had to be brought to the point of the maturity that everything is about. Meanwhile, you receive so much energies from the ganses you made or whatever. You're satisfied inside with the energies of elevation of the soul. Now it's time to bring that change of physicality. And the systems are set to do that, the new systems. When we show the first transmutation, you will see the change in the world about what it. When we put the knowledge beyond other points, the way we showed you with the gases and the electricity now, with the power production, we put everything beyond question. The biggest problem the Western world has with Keshe Foundation is how to handle this and how we can bring the change, and how we can literally forget about what has been pushed and written. You see, the elevation of the soul comes from the fields of the universe. And if you are closer to the center, the stronger field you receive, the stronger soul have, the more powerful existence you become. Most of the people we see, we say they have a lot of knowledge more than we do, and they come from the more inner circles of the creation. But because they can go to the lower dimension, we see that man is on this strength. The ones who have the UFOs, and they come from this strength. This is the limit they have reached, but they still can go lower. And they come to us, we think, oh, they're God. No, they understood, they elevated their soul to the knowledge of the creation. But with today's teaching with the man, we have brought man to this point. If man understands it, he has not much left to reach the essence of the creation. This is where these people are envious about the man, how he has jumped the gap. And that's the gifts of Mitra, bringing the love of the Creator. When you fall in love, you give everything. Doesn't matter if you're hungry, you have eaten, you have clothes. And this is what our Creator to his own creation has brought man to. Oh, trillions of years for all this to expand to get to man today has been jumped by one love. And then you understand the power of the emotion. I think he has even surprised the Creator himself, what he's done to himself. This is why Mitra understood the essence of the love within the creation on this planet. With all the problems he has, loving in a man's level is one of the most beautiful things the universe knows. Unconditional giving up everything to be able to elevate. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Cash. I had another question of a different subject concerning the soul and the soul of physicality. I've always considered the soul to be the most powerful of the two. And how is it that the soul of physicality is able to enslave the soul if the soul is more powerful?
Have you seen a fisherman? A net
Yeah.
on its own has no strength. But when you spread the net, you catch the biggest fish on this planet. It's the same. The spread of the mesh of the fields engages a lot of fields of the soul. That's why I always explain, just explain with a balloon. Yeah? The balloon's out when it's weaker and it comes back and says, I had a dream. You didn't have a dream. You had a soul travel. When you keep it tight, you keep it in. Look at the tokamaks. Look at the new, what we call fusion reactors they do. Look at the CERN. We have a very powerful center, but a very weak dynamic system engages all the fields. That's all it does. When you look at the tokamak system, when you have this huge plasma created by the magnetic fields, and then you create a compress to create a central plasma to create fusion, they call it. It's a very powerful system in the center, but with plasma is connection of fields. When you spread it so much, you contain it, and that's all it is. The soul of the man is in the center, and the dynamic blood flow contains it, spreads around. It connects to all these links, and that's why when you elevate part of it, it changes. This is. I've been through this many times. This is how, when we eat, emotionally we change, because our nose is positioned to pass directly beyond the what you call breathing and the digestion system, the mouth. The two continuously elevate. That's the only way we manage to break into this soul. That's why different foods affects our emotion and physicality, because this net is affected. This is why, if you go back to the teaching of years ago, I used to say, when you fall in love, it lasts 3 to 5 years. And after that, you have to renew the love. You have, why do you keep on telling you to your lover, I love you, or cuddle you, or kiss, or whatever you make love? To reconfirm and reconfirm. Because you create a new love, new understanding. The way you love your wife today, after 30 years of marriage, is different than the way when you fell in love with her 30 years ago. If you kept that love with strength, why do you still love her the same? And that love you created, it brought in a different combination. But during the time of 30 years, you have eaten different foods, you've been breathing different air and everything else. So the energy of what you fell in love with is changed. It takes 3 to 5 years. It's the same as a cancer. When you have a wish to die, within 5 to 7 years, we see the sign of cancer. It's the same with the food, with the falling in love. You consume different energies, and that energy brings a different elevation. So we understand this. Now we understand it more or less fully in the dimension of physicality. Any other question?
Okay, we've got another question in the Q&A here from Lucienne of the Brazilian community. Mr. Kesh, could we listen every day with our headphones to the plasma reactor group recording where you made the remote transmutation tests with the knowledge seekers?
You can listen every hour, every minute. What you get out of it, that's what it counts. What does it bring you? What does it change in you? How does it elevate your soul? How does it elevate the strength of your soul? That's all it counts. But in the coming time, when we bring back the people from the moon and the Mars, you will see the soul of the man's elevation will change. It's not just that we send people to go. We bring the changes to bring that change, the messengers of understanding the new world of creation. We're not making new celebrities. We're not making new cult. We had a guy from core team forcing himself, I'm a core team, I have to. No, it's the elevation of who you can elevate. How you can elevate the energies and whatever. Of yourself and the others, what you can give for them to elevate. So it's irrelevant. Any other question?
Okay, we have a question here from Darian in the Q&A. We've seen many new knowledge seekers coming into the group from Brazil looking for a solution through plasma technology for autism, and they want to learn how to make GANs to eliminate mercury. Can you enlighten us on this topic? What do knowledge seekers need to understand in order to bring balance and understanding into their lives?
I don't go into this because it opens a big Pandora box, especially with the Americans with autism and everything else. But there is a way to overcome the autism through the technology, and in a very rapid way, and will it bring a new dimension to life? And we will test this with a new units for autism. Autism is a very tricky game, very, very tricky how to create it. In the reports to Senate, now whatever it's confirms the connection of the substances to immunizations, medical injections we receive. So we know this. And we have to be very careful. These lobbies are very strong and they can do all sorts of things. But in general, autism can be changed very rapidly, very, very rapidly. It's very much like a blindness. There is a solution, there is a pattern with it. They have to have a system with it. And autism is reversible, 100%. As I said, till last week, we were strained by what we call restrictions by the fake court in Belgium, 7th of August passed. But now we are very much involved in a very direct way with a high level, with what called scientific world of the public in changing and bringing a new dimension into what we call the health application and what I call improving in the life. We have a certificate from Naturopathic of Belgium to produce the systems. And we put it directly to the doctors, how to do it and narrate it. Autism is as easy to change as you drink a glass of water. But you have to understand how and the way it is. But anything to do with other space of elements, taking out the elements, Alzheimer's and that kind of thing, Parkinson, has a very fast track to do. And if you've seen it, but we did in China. In China, what we did to get the guy literally running after 5 days of wanting to drive, you've seen that with humanity. It's the same process. There is a solution for all this: autism, ADHD, fibromyalgia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson, and the rest. And it's not a big problem. It's not only the problem of Brazil. In Brazil, you can talk about it. The other sides, they kill you for it. We saw Peter in Belgium. When he exposed these things, they even took the thing to the parliament to say the guy is insane and put him in a mental institute. These lobbies are very, very powerful. We have the same thing here in Austria. We have one woman doctor who's very well paid by the lobbyists, and she causes most of the problem for the Keshe Foundation. In a way, she's a prostitute in her, what I call PhD, to get paid to stop the Keshe Foundation. We have this directly in Austria now with one woman. We had the same thing with Belgium. When I came back from Iran, I was requested to go to the office of the Prime Minister of Belgium, and we went there with Dirk. a woman came in and she was what we call air blow fans, we call windmills. And she had to stop everything with cash because she was getting well paid as a lobbyist, as a member of the cabinet advisory to push her away. But the new generator plasma unit we launched today will put an end in all to this, because there is no mystery. When you can produce 10 kilowatt and you can gas the house, there's nothing to question. And the what I call health processing system of the Keshe Foundation is very direct. We elevate the soul. There is no signs of physicality. We've seen it. Many people who've been through the enhancement unit, they tell us what change has brought them. Any other question?
Yes, question from Nicola and Lucia in our chat here. What elements do we have to add to the combined gas power generator from time to time? I would like to know more about making plasma gases.
Well, that's a part of the technology of the Keshe Foundation. We do not let it. You cheated us, you betrayed us, and we see you're incompetent to do it, so we carry on doing it the way it should be. You cheated yourself, not us as a foundation, you did. I learned this very much from the Italians, and then we learned from the Italians again. We had a visitor from Italy to Keshe Foundation, 1111 guy, and he wanted to do whatever he wanted to do. He lied to our staff. He came into video, and then he didn't get his way. He went to destroy the Keshe Foundation to another Italian, what they call a scam job. So we learned from experience not to let things go till we have a full control and we can bring the full change back. A guy wrote to me from Iran, you have to tell us how you make the gas. Is that right? Is that right? Your right is animal right, not the universal right. And you behave like animal and you live like animals and you expect to have everything to become a more powerful animal to do more damage. It have not been done this time we do it. We learn from what we experienced of the past. We go back to governments and work through governments to have everybody has the same. We learn a lot from Italy. And we learn how, we have found out recently how Italian factory was handed over to the Italians. The warehouse manager slept with the closest person in the Keshe Foundation. Now you know how we lost it. We're told how to do it and the way to do it in bed. So we learned how who we share our bed with. And these are the things we're learning. I set up the Keshe Foundation in a very clear way. I trusted that the Keshe Foundation people will be like the Jewish people I always dealt with in my business world. In the Jewish community, when you work, nobody betrays no one, more or less. Accident can happen, but it brings solidarity. It's your work. I never lost a cent in the Jewish community 20 years of work. And if it happened, it was looked after as a mistake and it was corrected. And when I set up the Keshe Foundation, I believe the knowledge seekers will come from that kind of mentality. They'll be correct people. But I found out the most dishonest people come under the cover of the Keshe Foundation to deceive and steal and do everything else as knowledge seekers. So my attitudes in the past 2 or 3 years totally has changed. We treat you exactly the way it was before. People we trust enough, we work with enough, and we expand enough. And the rest have to be dealt with what I call governance. And that's the best way to do it. Because then everybody gets the benefit of it. That's and it's irrelevant. We won't teach. We do not put technologies out for you lot to go and try to skive it up and damage the others and try to damage the foundation. You made us wise. You made us to see what you're capable of, so we protect the rest. Any other question?
Okay, we have a question in the live stream from Douglas. If I take the trip to another galaxy and find the planet I wish to stay at there, what happens to my physicality here when I want to stay there?
You take it with you. You're still connected, but it goes with you. You take a, you in a way you can, in a way you have to understand. You can transmute on Earth because everything is the same field strength-wise. You can manifest yourself in 2 dimensions. When you go into a different strength, it's a different gameplay. If you do not understand what to do, you can lose a soul of physicality. And these are the things man will learn accordingly. In time, you learn what you can do, what you cannot. As I said, you become like child when you pick up the hot coal and you put it in your mouth, burning. You don't do it second time. Any other question?
Okay, we have another traveling question from Peng Peter in the YouTube. When traveling to different places through the dimension of the soul, will my memory of the site I previously went to remain intact?
Yes, of course. You'll find out in the coming time when you do it the correct way. Memory of the others become your memory in the universe. That's why you'll speak the language. We had this with the 2 Brazilians who came on the 2nd of August to the Keshe Foundation Center. We have many. We had English people coming in and going, and we tried to speak English with them. I wasn't there. I was told by the people who were looking after these 2. I mean, if they're on the panel, they can talk to themselves. Apparently, one of them explained he doesn't speak very good English, but he was speaking a fluent, rapid English till he was questioned, and then he stopped back to. We learn languages. We don't learn, we connect to languages through the enhancement structure. We learn through the enhancement is a universe. It's a replication universe. So if we can go into a system, we've seen this with many people who come to a lens. Go in with a spoken English, and they come back in and they explain themselves, because they tap into, as we said, the language. When you go from England to China and you go through the transportation system, you have to have somebody to explain to you. You need a translator. But if you go through the transportation system, I wonder if you need one, unless you decide to. And we've seen it if the Brazilian couple who came to this on the 2nd of August are on the line, bring them in, they explain. We tap into the language we need. That's why we say we need as many people from around the world. As you go on the translation, it says American English, New Zealand, Australian English, or English UK. Each one carries a different message. One is a pavement and one is a sideway or sidewalk or a sidewalk, whatever you call it. Yes, it does. Another question.
Jalal has a hand up. Go ahead, Jalal.
Yeah, with 5 questions this time. Hi, Jala.
Hello, Mr. Cash. Thank you, Rick. Hello, everyone. Yes, maybe I have 3, 4, 5 questions. First question, in the past teaching, you said the best place I can take the man to learn how to travel the space is Saturn. Is that still exist in the plan of the foundation?
You can go anywhere. You see, Saturn has many moons and many conditions, and the conditions between the conditions. You look at the moons of Saturn, we look at how these moons interact, what they create. When you look at the Saturn with its moons, you see a beautiful atomic structure. And I wish I would have released the paper, the structure of the Saturn. Saturn has a very composite structure where it's superimposed. And then you have the ring of the Saturn, which sitting outside. And then you have the moons of it and the rest of it, and you have the ice rings. These ice rings are conformation of layers. This layer connects to this ring, for example. This layer connects to this ring. This is of the hydrogen, this is of the helium, this is of, let's say, potassium, whatever. Different inertial field forces. So when you have the moons here of Saturn, it's not just the moon, it's what's the interaction between the fields of them, and then the interaction with center. So with 11, 12 electrons, you get a very good, diversity of the fields. And it teaches you a lot before you go into space. Is what I call molecular structure of the plasmas and the field control. When you look at any gaseous planet, you see the rings. Those rings confirm to you what gases and what layers are sitting, creating different inertias. That's why you see in the rings of the Saturn different size, ice blocks. And this is how your electrons work in the atomic structure. Your electrons in the outer boundary have different energy system and the interaction than the ones in the inner ring. It's just because of the field forces they carry, nothing else.
And the hexagonal shape of it?
On the top, on the North Pole, you mean?
Yeah.
That is explained in the same paper. And I've explained this before. Go back into the medical teaching. I think it's in there somewhere. The hexagonal shape of the top layer, or what do you call it, the North Pole of the Saturn, is very simple. You created it with your skin. If you look at your skin has this shape. If you look very closely. This shape comes from interaction of the different layers of gases or nanomaterials. When you look at it, the inner skin, the second skin, or whatever, then you create the hexagonal shape of the skin. Our skin is a mirage of interaction of fields. And each one layer creates 2 of the sides of the pressure. if you understand it. Look at your skin, you see it. So when you look at the pole of the sun, on Earth we have it as well. The North Pole of the Earth has a very small hexagonal shape because we have a very loose combination of it. The interaction of the fields of 3 layers, gas layers, and a structure of inside creates this hexagonal shape, which brings a stability. This is the Gantt state. And these layers are moving with different speeds and different, sometimes directions. And this creates the interaction of the fields totality creates the shape of the hexagon on the top of the planet. We understood this long time ago. It's been explained in teachings. I think it's in one of the books, maybe. But the hexagonal shape of the you put a reactor with the 3 layers with different gases, dynamic. You will see a field hexagon on top of it. It's the balance of the field. When you have more layers, you see more complex fields.
Thank you, Mr. Cash. A second question. It's not
The
really.
third question.
Okay. We see the situation now around the world of drought and lack of energies and all of that. Is that device what you are showing today? It's the beginning of the solution for them?
In so many ways, man has created part of this. And in so many ways, as I say, it's in a bigger plan. I always said, man will accept this technology, not out of the beauty of it, but as a fear of his own demise.
Unfortunately, yes.
We are getting to that point. We're getting to that point. And everybody looks at it as an economical way to make money, to earn money, and the rest of it. It's very interesting, very, very interesting. I received a report, a video of Parliament of Iran. A discussion in the Parliament, a member of the Parliament asks how come the minister, who is the guy who wrote the paper against the vaccination, now has become a member of the cabinet. He's in favor of the vaccination. What has changed? And somebody wrote very simply, the bank account. You understand?
Yeah, this is the problem we are
And
facing
this
all
is
the
a
time.
problem we have, but in time will change. We are in the right place, right time. The pressure on the Keshe Foundation is beyond. They're trying, but on the other hand, we see them, they come to us working for their lives. They bark like a dog when it comes to them with cancer, just tame as a snake.
I wish they open another account that we can elevate their souls with it.
We see, we shall.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cash.
Thank you very much. Jalal, join us in the group as the first 20.
Keep it a secret.
No, I said don't keep it a secret. Join us in the 20 people. So you have the rights.
I will be there, Mr. Cash.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Just I have to change my system. Just 1 second. Running out of battery on one. Can you hear me now?
Yes, indeed.
Just let me mute you on that. Okay, Now it's perfect. Because one is running out of battery. Okay, what's next?
Okay, in the Q&A from Trevor. With the elevation through the gas units, that's gas units, if all souls have access to both physical and soul dimensions, what will happen to the trees physically through elevation?
What do you mean?
Well, he's saying that the elevation through the, I guess, the CO2 gas units, if all souls have access to both the physical and soul dimensions, what will happen to essentially the trees physically
We
through
all
their
get to
elevation?
the trees and the shrubs and the animals and the stones will get the same elevation. Without exclusivity on that. That's why we brought it up this way.
Will they
Tremendous.
change physically, I guess would be the question.
Yes, of course they do.
So trees might hover on over the earth instead of having their roots stuck in.
No, not really. It's always the point of balance, isn't it? Not really. Have they uprooted everything? No. In that level of work, it's totally different dimensions.
Okay, we have a question from Jefferson, again from Brazil. Brazil has been quite popular today.
Very active, huh? They don't stop.
Mhm.
They have a guy called Rafael. He doesn't stop. They don't stop.
Mhm. Says, thank you very much for your presence among us. I would like to help reduce or eliminate hunger in the world. If I use the GANs produced by the cup of food, which you explained in the 358th Knowledge Seekers workshop, in a stellar configuration made with dynamic reactors, will I be able to feed the people close to this structure? Thank you very much.
You can feed anyone through the structure. The beauty with the understanding is, if you understand it in a way, is we say in English, you can take a horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink. You can create the dynamic structure of the food, but if the soul is not there to receive it, you can make as many food systems as well. Haven't been done that with the man. Haven't we sent so many messengers to elevate the soul of man? How many of them have listened and how many have changed? Those who chose. Those who wanted the elevation. Otherwise, the rest has been maybe not a waste of time, but another a slower process. Any other question?
I'm wondering if the story of Christ and the bread and fish feeding the masses had something to do with a cup of food of some sort technique. Do you have any inside information on that?
It's just a man put a name onto it, hasn't it? Call it the bread and wine and the rest of it. But in essence, it's the love and the energy of loving and giving. But that's what people understood at that time. So that's what it came to be what we know today.
Okay, along those lines, we have a question from Trevor. He says, I also want to know when we move to connect through the souls of our ancestors to find the truth about the crucifixion of Christ, will it be like those people are there to witness what those souls saw with their own eyes? Or will we be witness to history like we were present?
It's a combination of both. It's a combination of both. Who's been present, who hasn't. As I explained to you, we had a lady, we had two people. We had the lady, I explained this before. She spent all her life trying to see Christ, to be connected to him. And when she went to the enhancement unit and she came out, and she refused, she says, I don't want to be recorded, I don't want even to write it. And her husband was with us. And she says she refused to. But because he was aware of her emotion, she explained to us the color of the skin, the hair, the dress, the walking. She could explain to us fully about Christ. We have a good description of it. And it befits into what I call what we always said. Where he came from, it couldn't be any different. But the communication with him. So you can now explain a lot. And she was of the, what I call dominant structure of Middle East mixture, the time of Christ. It was very interesting. She's not a white Italian, as you call it. And it was very interesting. So I went through the soul dimension, and her ancestral line was present during the time of Christ, not during the time of the crucifixion. And the communication lines was in the line as it was. It was very interesting going through this. And we had people who went through the system and they felt the presence of the soul of Christ. We had 2 or 3 people who did this, but not the manifestations of physical dimension. We'll see this be without a doubt. Christ lived for 30 odd years. He came across hundreds, thousands of people who spoke. They've seen him, they know him. Some lived with him, some shared bread with him, as we call it. And these people, all of them, had children, had souls which they have been in touch with. And the same as the memory of where the cell of your kidney will be, the memory of the talks and his presence is within them. This is what we call the RNA side, not the DNA side, the energy back. And the memory goes back to the time of the creation. If some of us reach that point in our set, we can even see the soul of the Creator to understand his language. So people who have seen, what do you call it, Christ during his time in Palestine, as maybe children, they've seen him crossing, they made him a frog, they sold the bread to him, they followed him. All these people still created children. And those children carry the exact memory of what he looked like. We carry the DNA, we copy our parents, as they say, up to 500 generation backwards, which actually goes to from the beginning of the time, because otherwise some of us won't have a kidney, and some of us won't have eyes or whatever. So everything is recorded and is added. So they carry it. And yes, if you have a descendant who came through Palestine at the time of Christ, and you were there when it happened, don't forget the population of Palestine wasn't that big at that time. And where he was, or in Jerusalem, few tens of thousands, and more or less it was like a village type. Compared to today, everybody knew of one thing or that. So we all have, if you come from that kind of background. I carry a Kohen, which means through my mother, I'm connected back to the generation. So in presence is very simple. Those are coming from that position and direction are, they carry, you see it. And on the other side, I come from the blood of Muhammad. So the presence is both, but the same soul. I've been brought up amongst Sayyid, which means the direct blood of Muhammad. Brought, fed, and ate, and blooded by the same lines. And both from the mother's side. So there must be understood that we carry this with us if you've been present. Any other question?
Can we also pick up that those lineages or those entities, the Christ and Mohammed, can others pick that up through, say, artifacts or other connections with the past of the physicality type things?
I think most of us know, if we don't know. We don't have anything which is actually belongs to Christ. But we have more or less most of the clothes, especially the latter part of the life of blessed his name Muhammad. And every few years, these clothes are displayed somewhere around the world by the Saudi royal family. I think very recently, 3, 4, 5 years ago, they showed the clothes which Muhammad wore during his lifetime. They're treasured, they're kept by the, what we call, religious part of the Saudis. So we can, if haven't been watched, or we can even go back to DNA and recreate many of the people even who touched it, came in touch with it, and then with the present science and technology, find the bloodline down it. In the Iran Shia side, which is connected directly to the blood of Muhammad, many of what they call Imam, his descendants, his great-great-grandchildren, which some of their clothing and parts have been kept and people have touched. We can go back to their DNA. This is a present science, it's not what they call scientific, that can support this. Science can fully support this. It's not a fiction. So, yes, if you can find what Christ, or even if you can find the cross he was put on, you can bring all of it back.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense with the DNA and so on. So are our human bodies or human sensors sensitive enough to pick up on that DNA and actually perhaps to get that information even on a nano level from a few
Possibly, yes. Possibly, yes. Don't forget that the DNA carries the soul of physicality. Soul of physicality had a connection to the soul.
Mm-hmm.
It's not impossible because now we understand the science. Unless you're a hypocrite, you can. Unless you are totally denying everything which is existing in the scientific world, you can. Don't forget you go to China and you can choose the color of the eye of your child, the hair and everything else. So if they can interfere with it, they can rebuild it backwards too.
Okay, thank you. I have a question in YouTube from Peng Peter. If any of the universal community asks for help in the future, will the intervention be justified?
It depends how it is and what's the purpose. Yes. Many times they ask for help. Many times they receive. It's not the first time. Cultures, societies, which have been pure in their work and they lived a perfect life in a way. When it comes to, for example, their planetary system or the environment system collapses or is about to collapse, when the soul of the community asks for help, the universal community responds. Done many times. And still no. There is a few going on at the moment around the universe. Physicality forces what we call accidents for things to take shape. There is a society in the process, but there's a what I call community in the universal work that their job is like what you call SOS. They're there to rescue the souls. They never carry the physicality, hardly ever. But carrying those souls and all the same, it's not an easy job. We hardly have lost civilizations by accident. They've always been preserved one way or another. When you see the galaxies blowing up to pieces, they literally blow up empty of living soul life. Majority is emptied because it's done compared, I'll call it billions of years. You see it about to crash, you see it all the time. So the facilities for moving is there. The knowledge is there to do. It's a specific race who has achieved the knowledge of the creation and does this. It's a privilege. Any other question?
Can I jump here, please?
Yes.
Today, good. I have a lot of time to ask questions. Mr. Cash, there is two questions. The copper, 59, and you consider it 49. This difference in between the numbers, is it the inertia in a way?
The first one is inertial field forces. The other one is a plasma field forces.
Is it due to the condition, or this is what this matter state appears?
Yes, it's due to condition. It's due to the inertia of the Earth. It's a difference between mass and weight. 59 is, if you look at it from the plasmatic forward, is the weight. 15 of 49 is a mass.
And in regarding a spirit in this condition,
it's the same.
It's the
Condition
same.
to the position. Condition to the position.
okay. What do you have of idea about this James Webb telescope? And you know, we know in the plasmatic way there is no
What?
such
About
a
what?
distance. This James Webb telescope, the recent pictures?
I have no idea. I don't have time to look at this.
Yeah, they showed new pictures of the deep space, and they say this is from billions and the beginning of the creation. And we know in the plasmatic technology there is no such a thing. Whatever you see in the time, it is there in the same time. It is only the distance in our solar system or our galaxy which is make this time.
You see the field strength in a matter state. You see the field strength in the plasma state. It's the plasmatic which are instantly there, not the matter state you're there. You understand?
How we can distinguish this, Mr. Cash?
It's like when you go in a system, when you go into the gas, what do you call it, enhancement system. This is where we don't allow any films to be taken from the enhancement room. But it's amazing. I've said this before. People tell you, we heard you, we hear a voice telling us, but we don't see this blurred. I'm just about 20 centimeters away from them. And I tell them to go to the moon. And they say, we heard it. But in fact, it's my soul which gets in touch with the soul and says, go to the moon. Physicality is just a translator. As simple as that. I've had with many people who went through the enhancement unit this. We heard the instruction. I instruct the soul through the soul, but use the voice of the man, and the physicality is inside the soul. They hear it and they do it. Because, goes back to the same point, trying to give to police. And when you don't give them instruction, they sit there for hours. Nothing happens because they're just waiting for the flight to be announced, as I call it. Any other question?
Is that because the people who is going there, they expect to receive? That's why that is the difference.
Very much so. Very much so. Very, very much. We have this problem with very knowledge just come in and they sit there and they get nowhere because of the expectation. So I just came here to give. But what is underlying it? What is there? And what does the soul doesn't want you to see?
This is always like this. It's always also in the beginning of your teaching with when Rick and the others built this ball, and you told them just sit there and see what happened. And after a while, you said you went there to receive, but you didn't went there to give. So try now to give and see what will happen.
It's a condition. It's always said, if you learn it, always take what is needed. And until it's not needed, the time will not be there for it. And I've shown this to the knowledge seekers who are around me. And when things happen, I tell them because it's not there, there's no time. Say, oh, this is whatever. No, because we have to understand there's a bigger purpose behind it, not just what we want. And this is the whole structure.
One addition, Mr. Cash. Last week you asked about past teaching for the knowledge seekers. I think if the knowledge seekers go to the private teaching in the 17th or 18th of November 2015. No, it's 18th of November 2015 in the private teaching. I think they will find what you asked last week, and the transmute and the filtering and everything. they will be benefit from it.
What do you mean by that?
What is it, Mr. Cash?
What do you mean by that?
The connection with which we targeted, what we want, and how we connect.
Mm,
Even with the soul. I know you don't remember yesterday what you eat for dinner. But
yeah. Just 1 second. Something has come up very urgent. Just 1 second, please. Just 1 second, please. Hello. Sorry about that.
Hello, yep.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about Jala. You asked too many questions. You got confused.
It's okay, Mr. Cash. Thank you very much. No, it is only for the knowledge seekers because they have questions about where to find the old teachings, what you mentioned. And it's happened that in November 2015, the 18th, it have a lot of this answering their questions if they go there and
You see, nothing has changed over the past 10 years. We just expand on the same thing. And then when you go back to the passage it was there, it just built up on the more information to be there.
in a way you said it, Mr. Cash, and before about the 400 knowledge seeker workshop, he said we will start teaching and then you will realize that the knowledge was there but you didn't connect to it, and then in a way you will kick yourself why you didn't see it.
I mean, it's like the new power generator. You lot will kick yourself how you couldn't get your Magas working.
Don't mention my name.
By the way, how's your secret society going? Have you managed to do it?
Mr. Cash, we are in what we call vacation. I think we will start next week to join together, and I think we will make the connection next week. I hope. All of them is here, but you know.
Yeah, I see them. I see your team.
they put it on me.
I see the musketeers. I call them in the background. I know how you're working with it.
But as you said, we are working good.
You're there. You're there. You're getting there.
Okay.
I've seen your equipments on the table.
By the way, thank you, Mr. Cash.
Welcome. Join me, especially for the next year flight. There is a reason for it. Someone says, hi, can I join the secret society? No, they're very secret. I only know of them because I monitor them on the Zoom. Not monitor, I've just been invited to be. When I found out about the secret society, they couldn't keep
Just
me
ask
out.
him how much he pay, no problem.
Thank you very much, Jana. Any other question? We're nearly 12:30. We're going for about 3.5 hours.
Is that group still accessible through the private students?
No,
Group?
this
Okay.
this is a very secret society. These are you don't want to get involved with them. How many
All right.
is there? 4 or 5? I think it's in the group. They work very good. They
We have one of them, but he's never joined, and he's in the background. He's in a way, sometimes he clapped his hands, sometimes he laughed at us, but he never joined.
Who's that one?
I will not tell his name.
Any other question? Shall we call it a day?
Well, we've got a couple of hands up here. Maybe we can have a couple of quick questions before we wrap up here. Would that be okay?
Yep.
Okay, we have Dimitri and Marinez. Go ahead, Dimitri first, and then Marinez.
Thank you, Rick. Mr. Cash, my question to you is how and what is the Cash Foundation going to do about drugs on this planet? Because they destroy the true purpose of people's lives. Thank you.
We have the knowledge. We have shown using it. But when you elevate the soul and we're going through that process, this becomes irrelevant. And we are in that track. And
do you have a time frame?
Not really, because we done nearly 10 years ago. We can change addictions in minutes. And
if addictions can be changed in minutes, why does the Cash Foundation not implement that now on a global scale?
Very simple. We have addiction of different kinds. And it's like the guy told me, if you make gold, why are you asking for donation? Make as much gold as you can and sell it. Man has to go through this process themselves. Our factory in Tijuana, in Mexico, is in the center of drug trafficking. And last week, there was a big clash between different gangs and killing each other and burning places. We don't get involved. It's not part of us. It's part of the work of the elevation of the soul. Has to be done. And when it's done, it'll be done in totality. We are born to be addicted and we are rewarded by it. Our sexual behavior is not falling in love with that. Which addiction do you want me to eradicate?
Is that a question?
Yes. Power is another one, and wealth is another one. It's all part of addiction. You look at it at cocaine or whatever, or drugs, all addictions are part of the same. It only comes when the soul of man passes the soul of physicality. And then there is no addiction. And this is what, if you listen to some of the intros, when you look at from outside, you just see stars. You don't see if a star is a soul of a king or a peasant. In time will be sorted, in time will not be there to be done. We put out tomorrow that we have a solution for addiction and balance cannot sell. Do you know what happens to Cash Foundation? None of you will exist. You'll be all. So we do it the correct way. And
I have one more question. Go on,
Yes.
sorry.
This is part of the process. What's your next question?
Okay, thank you, thank you. My next question is in actually it's in relation, well, it's about suicide.
Yeah.
Now you have mentioned that when a human murders another human, they go back to the beginning of creation. Am I correct
Yeah.
in saying that?
Yeah, in a way, yes.
You've also said that suicide is not allowed for people that have committed suicide.
Suicide is not allowed
What
because
happens?
the
What
soul,
happens?
the soul hasn't reached its maturity. It's like the people who commit a crime. When you see, you can die next minute. The minute before, you cannot commit suicide. Because that minute of time is needed for a soul to reach its maturity point of departure. That can overcome the imprisonment of the soul of physicality. Once the soul of the man freed, has no dimension till he chooses by his own strength and his own soul. It's like cutting a flower before it blooms. What was the purpose of planting the flower? It's forbidden, it's not there, it's just you cannot leave a soul not to mature to its point. This is why killing is such a heinous crime. You don't allow the soul to reach its maturity to serve in the other dimension. That's all. You cannot steal. Any other
But
question?
what actually happens? What actually happens though? You've said that if someone murders another person, they go back to the beginning.
It's you
in a
have to
roundabout way.
compensate. You have to compensate for what you've taken. That's all. You have less once you compensate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other question?
Okay, one last one with Marinez, and then we'll wrap it up.
Good day, Mr. Kes. Good day, Rick, everybody. With a lot of joy in the advancements. And now that we are in the mysteries of life, I permitted myself to ask about what they talk about the punishment, divine punishment of Lot and the people who did wrong by certain values. And now with your teachings, we can come out of these mysteries and say, okay, maybe the creation of all these herbs at the time created the anger of the earth, the emotion of the earth, or maybe the beings over the sky, or the destructive way of life they had taken, but it takes some time before they can destroy themselves. So how was this thing called divine punishment happened? Or
A lot
happened?
a lot of rubbish.
But it's
There is
very
there is
strange.
no there is no divine punishment. The divine punishment is that you know you cannot do wrong and you pay for it.
Yeah.
And you pay with your back. Is something people can't understand, so they put a divine punishment. The day of judgment is the day of the balancing of the book of your own soul, nobody else's. You got to remember, there is 7 billion people and it's 8 billion soon, and all the time billions die every year, 2 years, if you add it up every collectively. So there is a collection of hundreds of billions from the time when life for man is started. Forget about the animals, the trees, and the thing. Can you imagine the queue of people now queued up for the day of judgment? Can it exist? The divine punishment is you knowing that when you're done, you have less to go with. That's all. That's divine. That's the secret. How do you want to do it? You want to put punishment into it? You want to put the Ruzat Qiyamat, whatever you want to call it. It's just made up for people to be afraid of. Reality, you are the captain of the ship. You decide where to anchor the ship. And that's divine. And once you understand that responsibility.
It's written that the Lut people were doing wrong, some actions, which is not good. And they didn't know it. They think it's fashion. They think it's good. And God said to, sent to prophet to say to Lut, to this good guy, the prophet, leave the city tonight and let those who were there don't look back. And they will be destroyed, and just don't look back. And his wife looked back and he became a stone. So how do you explain this?
Well, you have to see what's the truth about it. What it means. If you take the soul of physicality, yeah, and convert it in energy, you can become a stone. That's all, as simple as that. If you develop the energy of the soul of physicality reaches the level of the energy of a stone in inertia, you become a stone. That happens in your body. You call it tooth, you call it bone. And that's why bones and teeth are the only thing left when you die in the physical dimension. This is simple. This is a knowledge. Now we understand it, so it's totally irrelevant.
It takes time to
It's
become
instantaneous. It's instantaneous.
Is it like the Maya people? Some people you said destroyed, they get vanished. Is it the same
They don't
phenomenon?
vanish. It's not. It's just that you got to understand the process. There were people in the human cycle that they could manage themselves to stone them back to a living thing. If you carry the soul inside, it's the same as you can become Chinese looking when you go to China, and you become African looking in Africa. It's just understanding the chameleon of the soul, not chameleon of the physicality.
Another thing, thank you, is that, when you say, my wish is my command, and we are creator, some people say that because that's what you kind of, I have a problem with this word, I'm creator. Because
Have you had children?
in a way, yes.
Did you give birth to any children?
Give birth? No.
So you are a creator. When you're a mother, you're a creator of that child. But you can be no mother but create the love for a child, and you still create a new emotion in that child.
Yes, I accept that. But if I'm
So
a creator, I'm big.
You-
So I'm not
no,
given
who
from God.
says?
Creator is
says?
kind of power.
No. If you create a statue, do you have a power or a statue? Move, sit, move, left, right. We don't have that. It's what we envisage, what suits us to befit us and befit our emotion.
Yeah, because we say there is only one God.
Yeah. And there are many gods.
Okay. And when you say my command is my wish is
It's my decision. It's my decision, and I'll obey it. I decide, and I'll obey it.
But can I say that also?
Yes.
My wish is my command.
You decide to go to the shop to buy the clothes, it's your command. You decide to go. If you sit, the clothes doesn't come from the shop to you, does it?
Yeah, but it's not instantaneous. You know,
One is in the dimension of
process.
the soul, and one is in the dimension of physicality.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. So it's
Thank you
okay.
very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much for today.
Mr.
don't
Cash,
forget-
Mr. Cash,
Yes.
please. You just said there are many gods. Do you want to wait until next week to expand on that?
The God is us. Translation of the God as a creator, not translation of God as the big creator of everything. You understand? There is a philosophy which we come into it when man matures, even our creator as a creator. Otherwise, how was he created? You understand?
But where does that chain stop? Does it
Never.
stop?
It becomes us, it comes back to us to become them, to become us as what? As one.
Kind of like with the technology when you're feeding it back into yourself.
Yeah. Thank you very much for today. Thank you for everything. Don't forget, please join us in the Moon and the Mars excursion, as I call it, into bringing a new dimension. And when you join us, we will not choose who will be the first. We leave it amongst you to decide who will be the first to go through this process. We'll introduce you in a way where you, like the Universal Council members, when there are too many to become, we allow them to decide who will become the Universal Language member of the Council. We do the same, hopefully, with those who will be the first group to become the people who take the excursion to the Moon or to Mars. And we leave it to the group to decide who will be the first. There is a reason for it. I'll explain in time. So those of you who join us to become the first group to take man into space, the true way, not with the suit of the monkey, through the strength of the soul of the man, you have to decide. Because many of you have to support that soul with your soul. It's a callback time, I call it. And then we understand. So it becomes a collective effort of the human race to adventure to that space and time, and then open the universe to man with the knowledge of the creator, not the knowledge of the man with the monkey's kid. And on the other hand, as I said, with the generators, we have given you the biggest gift, that it makes man independent from everything else. And if you want to go with it, just go through the system as a 2 kilowatt generator and put in there what you have put in and what you want, which one you want. Thank you very much for today, and hopefully we meet each other next week. Thank you, Rick, and everybody in the background supporting the program.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Kesh, for yet another Knowledge Seekers Workshop number 446 here today on Thursday, August 18th, 2022. Thank you, everybody, for your questions and comments. And again, thank you, Mr. Kesh, for being there and developing and producing this teaching. Okay, I think we're going to, let me announce the next public workshop, which I'm just looking up the date here, which will be the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace on Tuesday, August 23rd. And that starts at 4 p.m. Central European Time with members of the Universal Council. And you can bring your questions for their using the soul to produce solutions. Okay, and let's wrap it up for now. We're going to end with one of our old favorites, which is the Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit music version. And again, thank you all for attending, and we'll see you in the next public teaching workshop.